Hey, I'm Jake with the Fireside Tattoo Network, and I'm joined today by this very average and mediocre tattoo. Um, it's not a bad tattoo. I mean, I've seen worse. I'm sure you've seen worse, but it's not the type of piece that you see from across the room, and you have to get closer to it, and you want to take a photo of it, and you're asking like, oh, who did that? It's not like that, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because I did this tattoo, and I don't want to do mediocre tattoos. I don't want to do okay tattoos. I want to do really great tattoos. I want to do tattoos that my clients love, that their friends love. I want to do work that my peers really admire and respect. But unfortunately, for the first, I don't know, 15 years of my tattoo career, I did mediocre tattoos just like this. And and if you can relate to that, if you find yourself doing mediocre work and would like to improve it, stick with me to the end of this video, and I'm going to share a couple of tips that I use to get some immediate results. So back to this piece, or pieces like this. I would do the tattoo, I do the drawing, and obviously I'm pretty happy with the drawing or I wouldn't put it on the client. I was really taking my time, making sure my lines were solid, my fills were solid, my fills were going up to the lines, my colors were solid, my blends were good. I was trying to do everything technically that I knew how to do to create a great tattoo. And we would finish the tattoo. I would take a photo of it. I mean, I have a photo of this piece, so I was pretty happy with it at that time, and put it in my portfolio. And inevitably, a few weeks would go by, months would go by, the client would come back in for maybe another piece, maybe I would see them out somewhere, and the tattoo just didn't have any pop. In fact, from maybe 10 feet away, you couldn't even tell what it was. It didn't stand out at all. You could just kind of tell that there was a tattoo there. And for the longest period of time, I would blame it on, that client's hairy. I'm looking through hair, and that's why the tattoo doesn't have any real pop or definition. Or, they work in the sun. They're not taking great care of it. Maybe I need to look at the inks that I'm using. Maybe my inks aren't bright enough and I should get a better brand of ink or a different needle, or maybe my machines, or you find any kind of reason to grab onto to justify why your tattoos aren't holding up as well as they could. But none of that seemed to solve my problem. And really it wasn't until just by chance I took a painting workshop and realized the value of surrounding myself with artists that were truly better than me, people that had solved problems that I didn't even really recognize as problems yet. And what I found when I started doing that, when I started regularly surrounding myself with people outside of tattooing, people outside of my shop, people that were using other mediums, is I realized that my problems weren't really technical problems at all, right? They were not problems with my methods. In fact, I was too focused on my own methods of putting in a great tattoo. I was ignoring the principles of drawing that make for great tattoos. So just to kind of clarify that, methods are kind of our unique way of making marks. It's what separates me as a tattooer from you as a tattooer. And there are as many methods as there are artists. In fact, there's probably more. There are millions and millions, or countless numbers of methods. But there are very few principles. In fact, for tattooing, for my purposes, I've found that there are really only 4 principles that we need to focus on. And by focusing on these principles and asking a series of questions repeatedly during the design process, during the tattoo process related to these principles, we can solve all of our big drawing and design problems and tattoo problems on the front end before we even get into our methods. So, what are the principles? Well, the principles are, in this order: shape, value, edge, and color. And so by asking myself questions like, is there a clear hierarchy of shapes? Is the star of this composition easy to identify? Am I using a full value range? Do I have too many hard lines, too many sharp edges? Am I using too many high key colors that are canceling each other out or competing for attention? Questions like these help me to solve all of my big design problems on the front end, so that by the time I get to the actual tattoo, I'm able to focus just exclusively on my own methods and on making that design uniquely my own. So back to this piece. How would I solve this? How would I do this today? Well, By going through and asking myself questions related to shape, value, edge, and color, I noticed I was using a very limited value range and my light source was unclear. So by a limited value range, I mean 1 or 0 being skin tone and 10 being black, or as dark as we can get with tattooing. I was living a lot in the 4 to 6 range with this piece. I didn't have a lot of darks and I didn't use the client's skin tone as effectively as I could. So just by recognizing that problem and addressing it, I could turn a tattoo like this into a design that looked like this. So as I became a better problem solver, a funny thing started to happen. My tattoos really kind of started to gain more attention. My clientele became a higher quality clientele without me really even trying, and it resulted in higher minimum charges, the ability to have more control over the people that I'm tattooing, as well as the types of tattoos that I'm doing, the subject matter that I'm tattooing. And it all kind of snowballed on itself, and it made for a pretty successful business unintentionally, almost as a side effect of becoming a better problem solver, of addressing principles instead of methods. So last year, my team and I decided that we were going to create a series of videos that addressed tattoo-specific drawing problems, that explained these processes that I've been talking about here. And we first sent those out to some of our core following, some of the Fireside listeners, longtime Fireside followers, just to get their feedback. We had them go through the course, complete the assignments, and you'll see here that they really made a lot of progress in a short period of time. They learned to use a full value range, they learned to use contrast more effectively, and their designs are much more interesting. So fast forward to today, and I think we're ready to launch beta 2.0, for lack of a better term. Basically, we'd like to share foundations with you at a discounted price in exchange for your feedback. There's really no risk, because if you don't like it for any reason, we'll give your money back. We will ask questions. We want your feedback whether you like it or whether you don't, just because it is an ever-growing and expanding project, and we want to make sure that the modules that come out tomorrow are the best that they can be. The way that we make sure of that is by getting your feedback and implementing your ideas into the upcoming modules. So read below for more details on foundations. I think you'll really get a lot out of it. Thanks for your time.